little trip. My supersonic ship's at your disposal if you feel so inclined. Well, alright. We're gonna travel faster than light, so do up your overcoat tight, and we'll go anywhere you want to decide.
Jool, the largest planet and sole gas giant in the Kerbol System. In my opinion, the best destination in the entire game, further featuring 5 unique moons. Today, we're going to be embarking on a crewed expedition to the largest moon in the Kerbol System. Being similar to Ganymede, the largest moon in our own solar system, the moon features a frankly ridiculous size and gravity, being similar to that of Kerbal. Because that's obviously way too easy, we'll be doing this mission in the JNSQ mod, which scales up the Kerbal system to a quarter the size of our own real solar system, notably upscaling Tylo and giving it an unreasonably thick atmosphere. Here, we're launching the habitation module for our interplanetary vessel, one of the very few normal looking rockets of this video. With the habitation module in orbit, the nuclear propulsion module quickly follows. Getting a large amount of propellant into orbit in one launch is, well, no easy task. As you can see, this abomination of a rocket comprised of 5 Saturn V first stages and 25 F1 equivalent engines is absolutely terrible. Yet somehow it eventually works. Finally, the interplanetary vessel is assembled. Considering it is visiting the Jupiter equivalent gas giant, it is appropriately named the Acute Radiation Sickness Inducer 3000. In all seriousness though, I suck at naming spaceships. Next we will launch a small scientific probe, appropriately named the JDV Fishing Rod, as it will descend through the clouds of Jool to gather the first samples from a gas giant. The probe will be hitching a ride on the ITV to reach the gas giant, and will then separate upon Jool arrival. Docking this, however, did take a little longer than I would have liked. The ITV is now fully configured and ready for a crew of 5 very brave Kerbals. Now, what's the coolest way humans have ever come up with to get people into orbit? Well, obviously, with the Space Shuttle. Where I stupidly realized, despite literally making the exact same mistake in my previous video, my docking ports weren't compatible. So yet again, it's time for a completely safe, completely untethered spacewalk to transfer across. The massive artificial gravity ring extends and begins to spin up, providing Kerbal equivalent gravity for the health and comfort of the crew for the decade-long mission. The shuttle deorbits with 2 of the crew staying on board to land the shuttle back at the Kerbal Space Center. Re-entry takes, well, a few tries, actually a lot, but I eventually finally end up in the lower atmosphere. However, there's a problem. I soon figure out that I'm just barely short of the runway, and there is absolutely no way I'm bothered to revert back and do the deorbit burn 15 seconds later. Luckily, however, This is actually a hyper super duper advanced space shuttle that has RS-25 engine relight capabilities, and a suddenly acquired infinite fuel source, allowing for powered flight in the lower atmosphere. With this incredibly advanced system, we are able to safely land back at the KSC. Finally, the crew is ready to depart for Jool, but not before launching the Tylo Descent Ascent Vehicle, or TDAV. As the TDAV departs Kerbal, the ITV prepares to do the same. To ensure maximum efficiency, the ITV will perform a series of short burns at Kerbal periapsis to essentially take the most advantage of Kerbal's gravity as possible, raising the apoapsis higher and higher until it is fast enough to escape Kerbal's gravity entirely. The lander is projected to arrive at Jool a few years before, allowing it to be positioned in a Tylo orbit to meet up with the ITV. Along the way, however, many mid-course correction burns need to be performed between the two spacecraft in order to achieve a Tylo encounter. Essentially, slingshotting by the large moon as it gets closer to Jool acts as a kind of reverse gravity assist, allowing an orbit to be achieved for minimal fuel, making use of multiple flybys of various moons. The TDAV arrives in the Jool system, beginning to use the gravity of flybys of many moons to get into Jool orbit as efficiently as possible. Finally, we're slow enough to burn into a highly elliptical Tylo orbit, which is the parking orbit of the TDAV while it waits for its crew. A couple more years later, the void surrounding the crew is lit by a faint green glow, growing ever closer. Welcome to the Jool system. Upon achieving a relatively high circular orbit, the fishing rod is deployed, but will wait a few months before deorbiting, collecting signs of the large magnetic field. Mainly because I can't be bothered, the crew does another untethered EVA to transfer 2 Kerbals into the TDAV lander. The vehicle is now fully configured for Tylo descent and entry. To achieve this, the crew must execute extremely precise burns to lower the periapsis into the thick atmosphere. Too shallow, and they'll barely slow down. Too steep, and without a heat shield, the spacecraft will be burnt to a crisp. Despite a sketchy descent and landing, and, well, multiple attempts, the two Kerbals are now safely on the surface. No time is wasted in deploying the many EVA science experiments and equipment onto the surface, making themselves at home for the next month. Jeb spots a cool rock in the distance, making the extremely dangerous jetpack flight over to plant a flag on top of it, while gazing up at the green marble, standing proudly over the horizon, on a moon that does not belong to their home planet. Before fully settling in, however, the Kerbals gaze up at perhaps one of the most magnificent sights in the cosmos. Before we leave, however, the Kerbals prepare to make history in yet another way, the first spacecraft to descend into a gas giant. As it attempts to get as far down into the atmosphere as possible, it will transmit the data to a pre-positioned orbiting relay satellite, which will then communicate with the crew on the surface and in orbit of Tylo, who can then analyze results and relay findings back to Kerbal. Alright, I think it's time to go fishing. As planned, soon after entry and descending below the upper cloud layers, the probe signal is lost completely as it is quickly crushed by the atmospheric pressures and melted by the immense heat. Immense science was gathered, however, of which the crew will further analyse on their trip back home. First of all, however, let's get Bob and Jeb off the surface. 4 Kerbals are now back on board the ITV, as it burns away from Tylo and Jool, carrying with it invaluable science and the 4 bravest Kerbals of our time.